Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to call to order the June 27, 2016 regular meeting of Dover City Council. I'd ask you to please rise and join us for the invocation by Mayor Christensen, followed by the pledge to our nation's flag led by Councilman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could I ask everyone for a moment of silence for Ryan Bradford of Magnolia, who is age 17. He was a Special Olympian from Caesar Rodney High School. Eliza James, wife of former city manager William T. James, and the victims of the Orlando shootings. Thank you. Lord, guide us through these deliberations tonight with wisdom and your divine intercession. Keep all the people we serve in your merciful arms. We ask this as your humble servants. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gentlemen, you have before you the agenda for this evening's meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Been moved by Councilman Neal and seconded by Councilman Hutchison to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now have before us the consent agenda. Those items on the council agenda which are considered routine and non-controversial are marked with an asterisk and will be acted upon by a single roll call vote of the council. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of council so requests, in which event the matter shall be removed from the consent agenda and be considered a separate item. It's the pleasure of council. Councilman Lewis.
Mr. Slavin, could I have the following items pulled? C4, White Coat Village revitalization payment in lieu of taxes. Also, C6, recommendation of General Employee Pension Board, consideration for retiree cost of living allowance, COLA. And also, number 7, appointments, reappointments, recommendations by Mayor Christensen, Board of Adjustments, A, B, Planning Commission.
Councilman Lewis has requested that items 4C4, 4C6, and item number 7 will be the consent agenda. Are there any other amendments to the consent agenda? Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Neal and seconded by Councilman Hosfeld. Is there any further discussion on the motion to accept the amended consent agenda? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Sudler?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Hosfeld?
Yes.
Mr. Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Slavin?
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Agenda item number 2, the program presentation from the First State Community Action Agency. I would invite Mr. Charles T. Kistler, Program Manager for the HELP First State Community Action Agency, to the podium for your presentation. Good evening. I'd ask you to just repeat your name and rank and serial number for the...
Yes, sir. Charles Kistler. I'm Program Manager for the HELP program at First State Community Action Agency. I really don't have a rank, but the young ladies that are behind me tell me that I'm doing okay. So the 3 things that we would like to accomplish. First, I wanted to thank everyone for inviting us to speak a little bit more in detail about the presentation and the information we're going to share with you tonight. The first piece is just about who we are as a community action agency. We're a statewide agency. For some reason, First State Community Action Agency the perception is that we're just a downstate agency, and we're not. We have a very special relationship with the communities in this state, especially the ones that are really hard pressed. And so we have 20+ programs that deal with these communities. They range from family service programs, housing and financial literacy, community services and community-based after-school programs, employment, training, senior programs. Those are just a summary piece of it. My program is called the HELP program, which is an acronym for Healthy Homes, energy efficiency, lead safe, people-centric. All those letters are very, very important to what we're trying to accomplish in the housing market in this state. The Healthy Home has to do with 29 hazards that are defined by HUD, including pest infestation and indoor air quality and unstructurally sound floors and trips and falls, and the list goes on. The energy efficiency has to do with helping people understand how to save energy and take the savings and apply them to a better quality of life. The lead, which is the one we're going to save to the very end of this, is a real serious problem because we don't know how many children that are currently living in poverty are actually poisoned by lead-based paint, which is the grant that we currently have to be able to either contain it or abate it. And then the people side of it is really, really important because self-sufficiency, which is our main objective, requires that we understand the client and be able to work toward putting sustainable behaviors in place so that going forward, the behavior takes full advantage of the work that we're doing with the other three letters. Those other three letters being the healthy home, the energy, and the lead. That's really the key piece, the people-centric piece. Okay, so that's the first slide. Let's see if I get this right. Okay. These two programs here that are on this slide have to do with cooling and heating. These are two component parts of the HELP program. They're both LAHEAP funded, Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program funded through the Health and Social Services Organization of the state. We were fortunate to win a multi-year contract, the base, which is going on right now in 2016 and 4 option years. The benchmarks for us on the air conditioning side is to install 650 window-mounted, wall-mounted, or portable-mounted air conditioners statewide. And again, we're disappointed because we haven't been able to get the word out or to make the proper outreach to get the lines that we're expecting. We should be getting people that are standing in line hundreds deep. Instead, we're dealing in single and double digits. So hopefully this type of visibility will tremendously help us. So I appreciate your invitation to come back and do this. There's also an eco kit. We put in energy measures, very simple ones. Last time I brought the kit, but normally I put it on the floor. We just don't have the time to do it right now, but that's how we actually illustrate this when we're in a client's home. So we do LED lights, typically lights that are on for 3-4 hours a day. We try to target those lights and put these LEDs in to substantially reduce the kilowatt consumption. Low flow shower heads, aerators, night lights, so they don't have to, in the middle of the night, go into a bathroom and turn a light on, and the night light should give you enough light to be able to do your business. Door sweeps, we do sealing around windows, anything to keep air from coming in hot or cold. Now, I'm going to tell you that on the summer side of things, it's going to get hotter each year. And what we're concerned about, elderly people, young children, and anybody that has some kind of breathing disorder. And we see some horrific things on a daily basis. It's actually god-awful stuff. But we do the best we can to get these units in. I think the problem we're having is that people aren't aware of the program, and so they don't know to ask. And so I know there are a lot of people out there that are in need. They just don't know that we have 650 air conditioners to install statewide. The eco kits just add the benefit of offsetting whatever that particular appliance is going to consume in electricity by putting a new air conditioner in their home. So, and then of course the educational piece that goes into that. The second piece is the heating program. Everybody talks about Code Purple and crisis. You got to think about these as both being crisis-oriented events. The extreme heat of the summer and the extreme cold in the winter. In both cases, there are statewide programs for us. We have a plan. So from a military perspective, we have this plan of attack. So we really take a concerted effort to identify people that are in real crisis and be able to take them and bump them to a priority level that exceeds everybody else, just in order to get them to a point where the quality of life is sustainable until we can give them something more permanent over a period of time. So 450 heating units, repairs and replacements. Actually, it's 250 replacements and 200 repairs. We also do healthy home interventions, 81 of those, so that 29 hazards like indoor air quality issues or pest infestation or mold, all that stuff can fall under this healthy home initiative. Can't have healthy homes, though, without having a heating problem first. Right, so we need to work in partnership with the housing authorities, the code enforcement people, to be able to identify these homes that have no heat so that we could do something about it. So we have $1.6 million. We still have money left to spend between now and the end of September. Given that we hit our benchmarks, we're blessed to get another contract year to go out and continue to help people. All right. We also do training. In the audience behind me is a young lady who's the only energy educator in the state of Delaware. I mean, for this type of work that we're doing. And we want to educate more, bring more people out of the communities and train them to be energy educators. But basically that means going in and acting as an advocate for that client. So not only do we go in and put in these measures, repair the heater, we understand why they went to the emergency room 6 times this last year. Because they had breathing problems. They had asthma. They had, they're sticking cotton in their children's ears so that the bugs won't get into them. So as long as we can go in and understand what those problems are, then we can come up with a attack strategy to be able to remediate these problems. Then the data tracking and the evaluation of this program in particular is our survival. Because if we don't have hard outcome analytical data, and we can't prove that the money that's being spent is really benefiting the clients we're serving, we're not going to be funded going forward, or it'll continue to get smaller and smaller. Right. The lead program is really the one that we're here to focus on tonight. Right? Census data says we got 50,000 children living in poverty in this state. We have originally 7 zip code areas that we targeted to do lead remediation, lead abatement, containment of lead-based paint. It's a 3-year contract with an option to extend it for 2 more 3-year periods. So we could really do some good running this for 9 years. Right now we're in the 2nd year. Very difficult program. HUD runs it. Administratively, it's a very difficult program, but the outcomes are amazing. Along with this lead program, we have 160 homes that are also designated for healthy homes. So we can help, again, in conjunction with lead, be able to also identify mold or pest infestation and get rid of that in conjunction with the lead work. Okay. $1.3 million contract this particular year that ends on November 30th. So we still have a lot of work to do. We have 37 homes we got to complete. I think it's 37 homes we got to complete in the next 90 days. Right? And again, like the air conditioners, we need help identifying these homes. So before I get to my, so this is a pictorial. So the young man in the middle is the person we're trying to help, and the mother that's holding him, if she's pregnant, we're trying to help her too. So if you look at the 11 o'clock position where you see the Delaware Public Health, right, as the grantee, they're the ones that are working directly with HUD in Washington, D.C. and providing us $2.7 million over this 3-year period. Right? So they're the ones that oversight it. They rely on us to administer the program, but they provide a lot of leadership and coordination with the Washington, D.C. folks. The Delaware Health and Social Services is our gateway. There's 15 of these service centers in the state, of which I think there's 7 or 8 in Kent and Sussex County. There are 8 in Kent and Sussex County. So we were originally defined to hit 7 zip codes. We did such a good job that HUD, I didn't do such a good job, but the people behind me did a great job. And so we were allowed to expand our zip codes to the full Kent and Sussex County. So that tells you that we're hitting our numbers. HUD is so strict that they give you a green, a yellow, and a red status. If you're in red, it's agonizing. And we initially got off to a bit of a rough start, but we have successfully maintained in the green and are doing a really, really good job. So really this should be a statewide program, but for now we're focusing on this city because this city has 2 of the biggest zip codes with houses that are pre-1978 houses that are candidates for lead-based paint. Two of the biggest zip codes are right here. All right, so the Health and Social Services is a gateway for us, so we can identify people going through the gateway. Mayor, thank you for the letter writing campaign. So we hit, who did we hit? Capital Schools, Head Start, Modern Maturity. Tremendous ability to be able to ask a mayor and have him come through and write these letters so that we can then follow up and get an audience. But those are the partnerships you need to be able to identify these children. DENREC is a partner with the LEAD program. They've committed funds for 100 homes so that they could do weatherization on their homes. So there's your tie between lead work and weatherization work. So it's a matter of just making that partnership work. Everything to the right of this illustration are you. So we've had some great dialogue. 2 city councilmen that are sitting right here that have actually met with us. We're going to take you up on bringing you into these homes and having walkthroughs. Matter of fact, the crew chief is behind me, so he'll make sure that he gets you engaged in that, because seeing it is believing it. When you see a child that looks at you with nothing more than just a sense of trust, that's why we stand here telling you that we need this kind of help, right? So management here has been awesome. I can't tell you how much it really, the resources that you provided to us. So from a planning standpoint, the emergency management and the public affairs, being able to do the public relations and awareness factor is really, really big, the council participation. And I also got to thank the public library. So they made space for us. So the kind of stuff we're doing now, it's nice to be able to be close to you guys here so that we can get this information and do something with it. Underneath, the young gentleman in the center is the housing stock. So we need to know where this housing stock is. We need to work with the school systems. We got a handoff from the young lady from emergency management to speak with the superintendent of the school systems, which again is another one of these important referral and handoff situations. So we're working currently with them to identify children in the elementary school system that could be in these areas that we've identified, and then be able to go through the process of determining whether they have lead-based paint. And then, of course, working with the faith-based community in the housing side. To the left, I got to tell you, I'm a little disappointed because we didn't get the Department of Labor training grant. Last time I was here, I told you how excited we were, and I wear this bracelet that says "Pray Strong." So I didn't pray strong enough, so we didn't get that grant. But we're going to pursue some way, somehow, finding ways to employ people in these communities of promise and bringing them in and actually get them to work on this lead work and some of the other stuff we're doing in heating and cooling. We do have a portion of our grant that allows us to go in and train 40 people in the community through Del Tech and then be able to put them to work through the contractors. All right, so this is our last slide. Okay, now, this is illustrative purpose, but this is the war room that we established at the library next door, and the objective is to ID all the green you see here. Thanks to the city manager and the assistant city manager, we were able to plot all the housing stock that you have here that's pre-1978, 1978 and before. So once we have that, then what we do is we block out, and by phase we determine, based on the housing stock, we reverse the search and go, okay, so give us everything that's not just, there's 4,785 properties, by the way, that are built in 1978 or earlier in your city, okay, 4,875, of which, if we look at the older stock, which we have a higher probability of getting lead-based paint, it's 1,025 properties. So now what we do is we go to the school systems, we go to WIC, we go to wherever we can identify the children, and we overlay the children onto this map. So now we know where the children are relative to where the housing stock is. Then the third tertiary approach to this attack strategy is to determine whether these kids have elevated blood levels, right? They're poisoned. So we have them color-coded up here. So first one is yellow, children under 6. Second one is pregnant women, blue. And red is the worst one, because if we have poisoned children in these houses, that's a priority one, no different than somebody in the middle of the winter in a crisis situation with no heat that's over 60 years old. And so we got to find these kids, we got to get them tested, and we got to be able to remediate this paint. So I don't know how big the number is, but when I posed the question to the mayor, he said it's transparent. No matter what it is, we got to find it and we got to correct it. So that's why we're here. We took the map, we're starting to lay this out now. With the cooperation of the schools and the other partners, we'll be able to make a determination as to how big it is and how much we can go in and remediate, either contain or abate the problem. Right. So that's it in a nutshell. So the lead, summer cooling, any awareness you can give us there, hopefully this type of a session will help us. On the heating plan, we need to be able to identify owner-occupied because we can't do a tenant on the heating stuff. So we can't do repair replacement of heater units on a tenant relationship problem. We have to have owners. And in the workforce development, I just got to come up with a secondary plan. All right, so look, this is the last thing I want to end with. And this was provided to me by a young lady who wrote on behalf of an elderly woman who wanted you to hear this. Right? So she put it in her own words, but I think it's important for you to hear. And it's called Come Into My Home. Come into my home. You'll find me quietly sitting in the cold. Sweater on, extra socks on, I worry. Why am I alone, yet surrounded by many? Where is my family? Where will I find the money to eat? What if I fall? Who will hear me? Come into my home. Let me bend your ear. No one else listens. I don't feel so old inside. Does anyone care that my house is old and drafty? That my heat is broken? That I may be broken myself? Please come into my home. It's a short piece, but it says a lot about people in need. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kistler. Do we have any questions from members of council for Mr. Kistler? Councilman Hutchinson.
Well, I'd like to ask the mayor and certainly you, the council president, where do we go from here? Quite frankly, this is certainly an opportunity for the city to embrace this program, and I'd like to see us embrace it and move forward. Thoughts or comments regarding the mayor and the president?
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilman Hutchinson, since we had the original meeting with the folks, we have committed to assisting them in any way that we can, and we continue in those efforts to make sure that the goals and the missions of the Community Action Group are accomplished. Once again, I think the basic issue that we are running into is that there is communication gap, or some people are reluctant to step forward, but we continue to work with this fine organization to make sure that the people that need these services the most are touched.
Do you know how many houses fall into this category within the city?
I believe it's 4,800, but we were trying to substantiate that number. But I'm just speaking off the top of my head, Councilman Hutchinson. But most of them are in the early 1970s through maybe close to 1980. So we have building permits and tax records that we can look back on to verify any information that they come up with.
Councilman Hutchinson, if you were interested in putting forth a motion to strongly endorse the city's participation and support of this program, I'd be with that.
So move.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Hutchinson, seconded by Councilman Yieldich, that council strongly supports the program presentation that we heard from the First State Community Action Agency. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, sir. We'll invite you back for updates if that's okay.
I'd love to come back.
Thank you. We now have agenda item number 3, a proposed resolution number 2016-07, proposing inclusion of Westfield into the Kent County Stormwater Maintenance. Mr. Koenig, would you please brief council on this item?
Thank you. The Kent County government has a program whereby various subdivisions can enter into a maintenance district with the assistance believe of the Kent Conservation District, being the inspector as well as potentially the contractor to repair any deficiencies. This is a program that's offered all across Kent County, both to subdivisions outside the incorporated limits and also inside the incorporated limits of a municipality. For subdivisions inside the municipalities, there must be a resolution authorized by City Council for them to enter into the maintenance district. This is how these types of facilities will be maintained in perpetuity. And from the staff standpoint, we wholly support these subdivisions entering into this maintenance district, with the simple caveat that if the city of Dover ever creates a stormwater utility, that these subdivisions would have to join the city's utility and forego the maintenance obligations in the county program. But at this point, we do not have such a program. And these facilities are in need of inspection, repair, and maintenance. So we endorse the resolution.
Questions for Mr. Koenig? Pleasure of council.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Neal, seconded by Councilman Hutchison, to propose resolution number 2016, which proposes the inclusion of Westfield into the Kent County Stormwater Maintenance District. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 8-0. We now have before us agenda item number 4C4, Watcote Village Revitalization Payment in lieu of Taxes pilot. This item was requested to be pulled off the consent agenda by Councilman Lewis. I'll refer to the Legislative Finance and Administration Chair, Councilman Hare, to explain the item and then turn it over to Councilman Lewis. Councilman Hare.
This was be more trying to get it all straight, but the Watcote Village, they want to do the same thing there that Milford Housing Authority did, only not to quite the same extent. We'll still maintain the roads, but they're going to be paying for a lot of the maintenance, and it's kind of a payment in lieu of taxes. Mr. Koenig might know a little bit more about it. Ms. Townsend's not here.
Do you want an explanation from Mr. Koenig, or you?
Yeah, I'd like to be heard real quickly.
Councilman Lewis, go ahead.
Mr. Slavin, since this was previously discussed at the committee meeting of a whole, which is not televised for the public to hear, I basically wanted Mr. Koenig to give the public an overall explanation of this, because I personally believe they should be paying their fair share. I would also like to know, or actually the taxpayers would like to know, some of my constituents who have approached me, what will they be paying in lieu of taxes?
Mr. Koenig.
Thank you, Council President. The action form indicates that Watcote Community Development Corporation is proposing to revitalize Watcote Village Apartments located at 992 Watcote Village Drive in Dover. And this project will cause a substantial rehabilitation of all the existing units. The Development Corporation is a recognized 501c3 corporation and has a charitable mission for providing affordable housing opportunities to families and individuals of low income. This property was actually granted tax exemption by the Board of Appeals, with the recommendation that council consider a pilot payment as a contribution to the city of Dover to provide certain services. There are currently 78 rent-restricted apartments on the property. My understanding is that they will be renovating all 78, and there will still be 78 upon completion of the renovation. And this project, because of the 501c3 designation, is exempt from taxation under the Delaware Code. The attorneys that have worked with this redevelopment corporation have submitted a pilot agreement to the city of Dover for a proposed amount of $9,000. So currently, the existing tax levy on the property is $16,956.54. They are proposing an agreement of $9,000 per year. In the
discussion at the committee of the whole, what was requested is that the city manager be authorized to negotiate the final terms of the agreement with the minimum payment of $9,000 per year, and that we make this agreement similar to the one that was granted for the Milford Housing Development Corporation for the redevelopment of Walker Woods, or the Walker Woods subdivision. So the staff endorses this. The difference, as Mr. Hare said, between this and the Walker Woods development was we actually abandoned a street that ran through the middle of that property, which we were giving up services for street sweeping, for street lighting, things like that. In this case, Watcote Drive is located adjacent to the property and is not incorporated into the actual property. It's a cutout right away that is not part of the revitalization project. So the city is not giving up any maintenance responsibilities or foregoing any infrastructure related to this proposal, but it is consistent with the fact that these housing and redevelopment corporations for charitable purposes have by right a tax exempt status, and in this case they're offering up a pilot to compensate us for emergency services that would be necessary to provide fire, ambulance, police, things like that for the residents.
I'm satisfied with the explanation, but I would like to put on the record that I would like to see a thorough study of all the tax exempt properties and review and recommendation from our city assessor's office.
Councilman Sutherland?
Yes, City Manager Konich, thank you for clarifying that. My question is in regards to the Milford Housing Corporation. What is their tax or property tax assessed at, and what is the pilot amount that they're paying? Basically, what is the difference between what's assessed at versus what they're paying?
Right. I did not bring those numbers with me tonight, Mr. Sedler.
Okay.
But my recollection is roughly that the pilot agreement was for $7,500 a year. There is an escalator in that agreement, and if I recall correctly, the tax on that was roughly $14,000 a year, somewhere in the neighborhood of $12,000 to $14,000, but we'll have to confirm those numbers based on the action forms.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions of Mr. Koenig or any other issues? Councilman Hosfeld?
So I guess what you're telling us in a nutshell is we have no choice. I mean, they're 501c3 by state law. We have to comply with this.
What I'm saying is the tax exemption was granted by the Board of Assessment, and this is an offer for at least $9,000 to pay to the city for services. So this is, in my opinion, nothing that the city should turn down.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Sutherland?
I move to accept staff recommendation as presented.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Sutherland, seconded by Councilman Hutchinson to accept staff recommendation as presented, and the committee recommendation, I believe. Committee
Correct.
recommendation.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion?
I'd like to just interject. I mean, I guess, you know, city services are not free, so I guess it's something is better. I guess something is better than nothing, is what I like to say. So, I mean, we're getting $9,000 out of it, but like I said, I've got a lot of concerns from, you know, constituents in my district, you know, that own small businesses and are homeowners, and they have to pay their fair share of taxes.
Thank you, Councilman Sutherland?
Yes, I would also like to say, although I respect Councilman Lewis' position, this is a 501c3 faith-based organization. And keep in mind that if you attend church, your church could be assessed the same amount. And I think that a pilot agreement is more than beyond fair because it does not call legally for any type of financial restitution. Thank you.
I'm aware of that, Mr. Sutherland, but, you know, like I said, I think everybody needs to pay their fair share, even though they fall under tax exemption. You know, I don't believe, you know, no more tax welfare and cost shift into the homeowners and small businesses that do pay their fair share of property taxes. You know, I personally feel it's unfair. But that's my opinion.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on the motion? Motion was to accept committee recommendation on this item. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Carries 8-1. Councilman. Now move to agenda item 4C6, recommendation of General Employee Pension Board, consideration of a retiree cost of living allowance, a COLA. There was no action required at the time because I believe as it was presented, it was an informational item and a request, and it required some additional research on the part of Mrs. Mitchell. Councilman Hare, is there anything you wanted to add to that before I turn it to Councilman Booth as the chair?
All it was a request by Mr. Blakeland for future consideration of COLAs for retirees. That's all we asked.
Okay, again, this was discussed during the committee meeting as a whole, which is not televised and the public is unaware of what happens. So the taxpayers are aware, Mr. Koenig. How much is this going to cost us, and do we have the funding? That's all I have.
Councilman Lewis, there was no financial proposal submitted to my knowledge for this. There was a series of spreadsheets that were shown. I think they were name scrubbed that showed various pensions being received by the city, but there was actually no proposal to cost out at the committee session.
Okay.
Any further discussion of the item? I'll now entertain a motion to accept the Legislative Finance and Administration Committee report of June 14th.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was premature in that. No. That motion was made by Councilman Anderson, seconded by Councilman Sudler, to accept the Legislative Finance and Administration Committee report of June 14th. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Agenda item number 5 is abandonment of Topaz Circle Stub Street, waiving the abandonment procedure. Reminded that during the regular City Council meeting of May 9th, 2016, Council approved the Safety Advisory and Transportation Committee's recommendation of looking into the process of abandoning Topaz Circle Stub Street. And I would request Mr. Koenig to brief us on this item.
Thank you, Council President Slavin. In the packet tonight is an action form coming out of the Safety Advisory and Transportation Committee prepared by Mrs. Anne Marie Townsend. As it relates to the proposed or potential abandonment of Topaz Circle Stub Street, following the Planning Commission's approval of the Arbors Senior Garden Apartments, this is item number S-16-07, located at 1051 College Road. Members of council expressed concern that they heard from residents in the Emerald Point subdivision, I believe surrounding areas, regarding the potential interconnection between the Arbors and the Emerald Point subdivision. Emerald Point subdivision was approved by the Planning Commission with 2 stub streets, one of which is at the end of Topaz Circle and connects to property located at 1051 College Road, which is currently known as the Arbors. The stub street has been improved as part of the infrastructure related to the Emerald Point subdivision. At the Safety and Transportation Committee on April 26th, 2016, the committee heard a presentation from the Planning Office about the substantial history related to the Arbors project and the interconnection between the subject site and Emerald Point. After that presentation, there was public testimony regarding the interconnection. The committee unanimously approved a motion to look into the process of abandoning the stub street that was recommended by the Planning Commission at Emerald Point. This motion was ultimately approved by the City Council through the acceptance of the Safety Advisory Committee minutes of May 9th, 2016. That brings us to tonight's discussion. The city's charter provides City Council the power and authority to vacate or abandon streets under Article 2, Section 27. The Dover Code of Ordinances does not specify a specific process for street abandonment, but the city has consistently followed a process specified by the clerk's office, which is attached for council review. This process is intended to begin with a request from an adjacent property owner. In this case, there is no adjacent property owner making the request. However, it's within the council's authority to initiate the process. Proposals for abandonment of improved streets are referred to the Development Advisory Committee and the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission then makes a recommendation to the Utility Committee. The Utility Committee makes a recommendation to City Council, who sets public hearing and takes action following the public hearing. Tonight's discussion would start a process which would start with a motion by City Council to waive what we consider to be the normal process for street abandonment and refer the matter to the Planning Commission. So staff is recommending two issues. First, that council waive the normal process for street abandonment. And second, the council refer this matter to the Planning Commission for a public hearing on July 18th, 2016 for consideration and recommendation.
Questions for Mr. Koenig? Councilman Sutler.
Well, actually, my question is for City Clerk, Ms. Tracy McDowell. I know that we had made a decision in regards to not going with the staff recommendation at that time. I'm trying to recant exactly. I know that the issue was they wanted a road to be at that certain point. And I think it was a safety advisory committee that said that we did not go with staff recommendation. With that being said, if that is the case, how would that play in regards to where we are tonight with what was just being read by the city manager?
The committee's recommendation at that time was to look into the process of abandoning the street, and our normal process does not fit this situation. So the recommendation now is to waive our process, which would be an adjacent property owner requesting it, because there were several property owners at the meeting that did
Right.
request it, and then move it forward through the process.
So would that be in conjunction with the city manager is expressing to us at this present moment?
Yes.
Thank you. That's my clarity. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Councilman Sutler.
Well, I'd like to move to accept staff recommendation.
I believe we need two motions, two consecutive motions. One is to waive the process of abandonment, the formal, is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. Koenig, is that what we need?
Yes, we would request that council initiate a motion to waive the normal process for street abandonment.
I move to waive the normal process for street abandonment.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Sutler and seconded by Councilman Cole to waive the normal process of street abandonment for the Topaz Circle sub-street. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. And I believe, go ahead.
And then, yes, Mr. President, we would request a second motion referring this matter to the Planning Commission for public hearing on July 18th, 2016.
I'd so move.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Hosfeld, seconded by Councilman Anderson. Any discussion on the matter? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Agenda item number 6, electric rates and tariffs, transmission voltage, federal government clarification. Mr. Koenig.
Thank you, Council President Slavin. In July of 2015, the current City of Dover electric rates for customers were implemented in accordance with the FY 2016 City of Dover budget authorization. The new electric rates resulted in an increase of approximately 3.4% to the Dover Air Force Base as a customer. Under a 1954 agreement, the City of Dover was to provide notice of a rate increase to Dover Air Force Base in advance of implementation. Current city management was not aware of this notice requirement in advance of implementation, therefore did not notice the Air Force of the proposed rate increase. The city was contacted in August of 2015 regarding the rate increase, and Dover issued a formal correspondence in November 2015 explaining the rate increase. Subsequent conversations over the last 6 months have included a review of the rate model with Burns and McDonald, who represents the City of Dover, as well as input from various consultant advocates working for the Air Force. After conducting a full rate review of all documents, the City of Dover and the Air Force mutually agreed on a final rate acceptable to both parties. There's an error in this next sentence. The rate of $0.06370 per, it should be kilowatt hour, adopted in July of 2015 would be reduced to $0.0635 per kilowatt hour. Proposed rate adjustment will reduce the electric revenues from the Dover Air Force Base by approximately, on the low end, $9,500, on the high end, $18,000 per year, depending on actual energy consumption at the facility. So the staff is recommending that council accept the attached tariff identified as FT, which is short for the Transmission Voltage Federal Government Classification Rate and Tariff, and that we backdate the effectiveness of this tariff to July 1, 2015, and that staff make all the necessary billing adjustments to implement the revised rate. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Cohen? Councilman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one question in regard to this, and that is, will this tariff classification be exempt from the rate adjustments, since it appears the rates are actually permanently adjusted in this one?
The all rate classifications would be eligible for the power cost adjustment that will be considered later tonight by City Council. So this is the base rate for power for this customer class, and then the power cost adjustment is applied to the energy component.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Cohen? What's the pleasure, council?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Neal, seconded by Councilman Anderson, to accept staff recommendation authorizing the city manager to implement the Transmission Voltage Federal Government Classification FT rate and tariff. The effective date will be backdated to July 1st, 2015. All necessary billing adjustments will be implemented. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. We now have agenda item number 7, appointments recommended by Mayor Christensen. This item was asked to be removed from the consent agenda by Councilman Lewis. Councilman Lewis.
Mr. Slavin, the reason I requested this to be pulled, and this is nothing personal against the candidates, but since the mayor has left, I'm going to have to respectfully withdraw the reason why I pulled this, because he's not here to answer my questions. So I withdraw it.
Councilman Sutherland.
Since we will be voting on it, I would like to hear Councilman Lewis's questions in lieu of the mayor not being here to answer the questions.
I think it would be unfair with the mayor not being present.
Councilman Sutherland.
I move that we defer these items until the mayor is here to answer those questions, because I don't feel comfortable in voting with the concerns of my fellow colleague and Councilman Lewis.
Your second to that motion?
I have no objection.
That's a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Councilman Sutherland, seconded by Councilman Lewis, to defer the appointments recommended by Mayor Christensen contained in items 7A and B of tonight's agenda. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 8 is first reading of a proposed ordinance 2016-16. The first reading is offered on the proposed ordinance. Since it is an amendment to Appendix B zoning, a public hearing is required. It is recommended for referral to the Planning Commission on July 18, 2016, and that a public hearing be set for August 8, 2016 at 7:30 p.m., at which time the final reading and council action will take place. The ordinance is available at the entrance of the council chambers, on the city's website at www.cityofdover.com under the Government tab, or by contacting the city clerk's office at 736-7008, or emailing the city clerk at cityclerk@dover.de. I'd request Mr. Koenig to brief us on this item in the absence of Mrs. Townsend.
Thank you. I'm going to give you the 30,000-foot flyover for this proposed ordinance 2016-16, referencing manufactured homes. In short, this is a compilation of changes to address concerns of council and staff, and the proposed ordinance updates the standards and terminology throughout the Dover Code as they relate to manufactured homes. The proposed ordinance also implements standards for management and maintenance of land lease communities. This is sponsored by Councilman Neal, Councilman Slavin, Councilman Cole. If you would like me to go through the detailed strike-throughs in addition, I'd be happy to do that, but unless requested for additional information, I'll leave it at that overview because it is going to receive additional oversight as indicated by Council President Slavin over the next several weeks prior to final reading.
Any questions for Mr. Koenig? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for its referral as recommended.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Hare and seconded by Councilman Neal. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I'll now defer to the city clerk for the introduction of the proposed ordinance in accordance with Section 1-9 of the Dover Code. Madam Clerk.
Proposed ordinance number 2016-16, amending Chapter 22, Building and Building Regulations, Chapter 26, Businesses, Chapter 50, Floods, Chapter 66, Manufactured Homes and Trailers, Chapter 102, Taxation, Chapter 106, Traffic and Vehicles, Chapter 110, Utilities, Appendix B, Zoning, Articles 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 12, and Appendix F, Fees and Fines. This constitutes the first reading. The final reading is scheduled to take place on August 8, 2016.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Agenda item number 9 is the final reading proposed ordinance 2016-17. First reading of the proposed ordinance was accomplished during the council meeting of June 13, 2016. The ordinance is available at the entrance of council chambers on the city's website under the Government tab. First, I will entertain a motion to consider the final reading by title only, which allows the waiving of the reading. Separate motion will be necessary for its adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Hare and seconded by Councilman Anderson to waive the reading of the item and have it read by title only. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item A, proposed ordinance 2016-17, 2016-17, City of Dover budget ordinances. Mr. Koenig, would you please brief council on this?
Thank you again, Council President Slavin. In the packet tonight is the final budget ordinance, which is a compilation of discussions and documents. The discussions occurred May 24th, May 25th, and May 26th in council chambers and encompassed approximately 10 hours of introduction and debate with respect to all components of the city budget. The 28-page ordinance is a boiling down of approximately 315 pages of information related to the city's general fund, the city's electric fund, and the city's water and sewer funds, as well as a number of ancillary funds that we manage. The aggregated budget for both general, water, sewer, and electric is roughly $144,700, with total revenues and expenses of $137,119,300 estimated for FY17. It's important to note that the FY17 City of Dover budget contains no property tax increase, contains no fee increases related to the general fund. There are no water and sewer rate increases or fee increases related to the water and sewer utility, and there is no rate increase related to the city's electric utility. During the budget discussions, an alternative budget for the electric utility was proposed and recommended by council based on staff input for a 2% power cost adjustment on the energy portion of the electric bill. The final staff count for the FY17 budget from 16 to proposed 17 went from 359 full-time employees to 357 full-time employees. The recommendation as we went through budget deliberation reduced full-time equivalents to 354 employees because there was embedded in the discussion a motion to dissolve the Economic Development Office through the FY17 budget and direct the city manager to incur the necessary expenses to dissolve that office. As I indicated, the final reading is a 28-page document that spells out estimated and projected spending for the city of Dover and all funds, including capital projects for FY17. I'd be happy to answer any questions on that document.
Thank you, Mr. Koenig. I'm just going to have some prefatory remarks before we open the floor. This is the second reading of the budget and possible adoption of the budget this evening. It is the result of, I believe, 15 hours of public hearings that this body held, hundreds of hours of preparation from staff and research and study done by staff and by other council members. And this is my ninth city budget that I've been involved in. And when I returned to council 3 years ago, if you told me we would be presenting a budget in 2016 that had no tax increase, no fees increase, no utilities increase, I would have said one thing, that we're all going to have to work very hard to get there. And we worked very hard and we got there. And we have a budget that may not have everything that everyone wants, but it certainly has enough that we've done well for, I believe, well for our city and well for our constituents. Not only does the proposed budget have no tax increase, but this budget actually lowers property taxes on owners who own property in the business improvement district. As such, I believe it is the first budget in more than 20 years for the city of Dover that actually lowers taxes. At least in my memory and my research, that's what I proven to be the case. A word of caution, I know that, and I respect the right of any council member to raise motions on the floor at this time. I will say this just as my own personal caution. It makes it very risky to adopt things in the 59th minute of the 23rd hour of deliberations. Without time to properly vet things and study any of the proposed changes, it shifts the risk onto the city because we may not know what any proposed cuts or additions would do to that delicate budget that we've put together over those many, many hours. But as it is, I'll open the floor to questions from Mr. Koenig. I do have a budget amendment that was handed to me a few moments ago from Councilman Anderson. Councilman Anderson, do you want to enter this into the record?
I do, Mr. President.
Do you want me to read it into the record?
I don't know if you can read my handwriting. That might be easier for you.
Okay.
Probably can, but
So I'll recognize
I'd like-
Councilman
I'd like to
Anderson.
Is it
I
possible,
like to be
I'm sorry.
kind.
Councilman Hare?
is this something that we're supposed to be able to look at or see or what, or is this going to be not acted on?
It's at the discretion of Councilman Anderson if he wants to raise it as a motion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. It's a simple motion that is meant to clarify something that was done by the council during the series of motions. Money was moved to the mayor's department, and he was given discretion to use it. However, it wasn't, an earlier motion eliminated all members of the staff, and even though there's, it's a question, there's been a question raised whether he would have discussion if he wanted to utilize some of that money to keep the administrative staff in conjunction with the partnership. And I just want to make a motion to clarify that the mayor would have discretion to keep the one person who does the administrative work that was with the Department of the Economic Development Department. Now, because otherwise you are very much handicapping the mayor and certainly the partnership, which doesn't have, which quite frankly is quite concerned about not having anyone all of a sudden to do administration before they have time to hire anybody. Because a lot of work can be done by volunteers, but there's some work that needs to be done by someone. And so I have a simple motion, and that is I move that the mayor be allowed to utilize the $65,000 for economic development, or a portion of that, for an administrative staffer, and be allowed to share the said staffer with the Downtown Dover Partnership, with funds paid for said staffing from the partnership returning to the mayor's economic development budget.
That made in the form of a motion?
That is
Is
the motion.
there a second to the motion? Hearing no second, the motion fails. Add Councilman Sudler and then Councilman Hutchison.
I'm good.
Councilman Hutchison.
Mr. President, I got a question for the city manager. Regarding the, as a result of the action taken by the city council, you made some moves pertaining to the funding of where the funds would be directed to, correct?
Are you?
Regarding the partnership.
Yes. So I don't have all the motions in front of me, but starting with the series of motions, there was a economic committee recommendation that was endorsed by the city council. There was a recommendation to increase the funding to the partnership from $70,000 in the draft budget to a total of $150,000 so the partnership could address staffing needs at their discretion, whether it be one person, 1.5 persons, 2 people, that 150 be intended to cover their staffing needs for the partnership for FY17. They are currently advertising for an executive director. I think they're hopeful to have somebody by early September, but they have to go through the recruitment process for that. The next motion related to the bid district and setting the bid district tax from the proposed rate that we brought before council that would have raised roughly $48,800. Was set that rate at 0. It keeps the taxing district boundaries in place. It keeps all of the legal requirements of that district in place. It keeps the district in place in code, but it sets the FY17 rate at 0, so there will be no additional bid tax collected from property owners in the business improvement district for FY17, provided council adopts the budget. And then the last motion had to do with remaining funds after the city manager incurs the necessary expenses to close the office. So there are expenses related to employment, potentially other expenses that may be necessary to incur over a period of time to close that office. So after if you take the entire proposed budget, roughly $238,000, if I remember correctly, and you make all the necessary payments, things like that, there will be a sum of money that would be left over in FY17 that after those expenses are incurred, we have been authorized, or the council has authorized those funds to be directed to the mayor's budget. We have not, between Mrs. Mitchell and I, directed it to a specific line item yet. But once we know those funds that would be available, we'll inform council where they've been directed in the mayor's budget. And then that is the FY17 recommendation. It does not carry forward, to my understanding, into FY18. This is the FY17 operating budget recommendation that came out of the budget hearings and deliberation.
Other questions of members of council?
Mr. Slavin?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Councilman Lewis, and then Councilman Harris.
I have a question for Mr. Koenig. I don't know if you can answer this accurately or not, but where do we stand as far as the state budget is concerned and various programs that possibly could be cut, like street and aid, transfer tax, and it drastically affecting the city and other municipalities?
Right, so I'll recap, I think, how I've been on record during the budget discussions. The DelDOT budget included municipal street aid. It also included community transportation funds at the same level as FY16. There was an email that came out, I think it was late last week, regarding community transportation funds that indicated that each legislator's allotment would actually go up by $15,000. So I think that takes them either to 240 or 265. I would have to check on the actual authorization, but it was supposed to go up an additional $15,000 related to funding that DelDOT was able to secure for those types of services. To my knowledge, there's a police pension payment that happens. I believe that is staying at the same rate as it did in FY16. Under the real estate transfer taxes, this was an issue that was discussed as part of the FY16 budget discussions at the state level, that they may change the appropriation for realty transfer taxes. Right now, that transfer tax of 3% is split 50-50 between the municipality or the county and the state. The proposal last year was to potentially alter that split and make it 2% to the state, 1% to the local government. That proposal did not go through as part of the FY16 state budget. It is my understanding that that proposal is not being debated at the state budget level this year, that no one wanted to pursue that alteration of the realty property tax, realty transfer tax appropriation. And then there were some minor changes, I believe, to some law enforcement funds. I think it was related to 911 or cellular reimbursements. But there is no indication at this point, June 27th, at almost 9 o'clock at night, that there is going to be any adjustment to state revenues. In fact, Ms. Russell, or Ms. Bundy, met with the Secretary of Finance regarding the payment in lieu of taxes of roughly $280,000 a year, somewhere in that neighborhood. And the discussion was that, expectation was that the funding from the state for pilot would remain at the same level as FY16. It's not intended to go up, but it's not intended to go down. So at this late hour, the city management, as in the city manager, believes that state revenues will be roughly equal to the same revenues received as in FY17 as we received in FY16.
So what you're saying, in your opinion, you feel that we're safe?
I am reasonably confident that we're in fair shape because I don't control anything that happens over at Leg Hall. So.
That answers your question. It does. Councilman Hare?
I just wanted to say that I think with the funding that's been given to the partnership, they do have sufficient monies to do hire an administrative type person if they want to continue that position. That's was the purpose for giving the funding. So that's all.
What was the pleasure of council?
Move to accept the budget.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Hare and seconded by Councilman Hosfeld to approve the ordinance 2016-17, which is the city's budget. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Anderson?
No.
Mr. Sudler?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Hosfeld?
Yes.
Mr. Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Yes, motion carries 8-1. Agenda item number 10, city manager's announcements.
I'll be very brief. I'd like to thank Mrs. Mitchell and her staff for her patient diligence in helping me prepare the FY17 budget because there was a lot of effort and discussion that went into that. I'd also like to thank the department heads who all contributed significantly related to their budget. They all appreciate the opportunity to come in and argue for their staff and their programs and their capital projects. And every one of them, everyone who has participated in the budget discussion, including the members of council, I appreciate the comments, the encouragement, and the expectations of providing excellent service and projects to the citizens and ratepayers. And we are very proud of the document that was endorsed tonight, and we're looking forward to the FY17 budget implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Item number 11 is council member announcements. I have the happy fortune of extending an early birthday on July 6th to Councilman Bill Hare. Happy birthday. Any other announcements from members of council? Councilman Hosfeld and then Councilman Sutherland.
As most of you know, recently, last weekend, our city increased in size by 90,000 people. Firefly Music Festival came and went successfully, I may add, and a large part of that is due to your city workforce. They're incredible people, from our fire marshal to our police department to our fire department to the city manager, who I think I may have bothered and harassed on his day off. Our public works people, Kay Sass, our emergency management director, everybody did a great job. You should be very proud of our employees. And those actions that we took to bring all that property within the city definitely paid off. And me speaking from the Speedway, we're truly appreciative of all their efforts. Thank you.
Have Councilman Sudler, then Councilman Hare, then Councilman Hutchison.
Yes, on July 16, 2016 at 12 p.m., there will be a 4th District Annual Empowerment Fair sponsored by myself, Councilman Sudler, and partnered with Sindel Foundation. The theme is to empower the youth and citizens of Dover with resources that will not only enhance the quality of life in their communities, but encourage citizens to be held accountable for being law-abiding citizens that other cities can model after. All councilmen and their districts are welcome to join us. There will be vendors that advocate job opportunities, anti-illegal gang strategies, voter registration, and pardon procedures for at-risk youth offenders. Thank you.
Can you give us the location of that?
Oh, the location is at the Michoud Park Place, 320 Raymond Street, Dover, Delaware, off of State College Road. Take State College Road to Michoud Street. Just come on back and you'll see us. Thank you.
Thank you.
What are the times and the date on that again?
July 16, 2016 at 12 p.m. until. Until.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Hare.
On June 21st, the 2nd District, Councilman Lewis and myself had a community meeting. The mayor was there, Anne Marie Townsend was there. Krista Husa from the police department was there, and had a nice turnout. There was a few concerns, which I've emailed to Mr. Koenig, and he will address. But all in all, I guess one of the biggest ones was the speeding on Wyoming Avenue and Westview Terrace, and a few other code violations, and some other issues that we have to get more involved in with DENREC. But it was a good turnout. Capital Baptist Church did a very nice job. There's some really good food out there. But it was a very good meeting.
Thank you, Councilman Hare. Councilman Hutchison.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sure that everyone saw the well-written article about Dover Air Force Base and how they are being considered for air refueling mission. And certainly as time marches closer to that event, I'm sure that the city of Dover, along with the Chamber of Commerce and Kent County Levy Court and the state of Delaware, will reach out to embrace that opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. Any other announcements from council members? I'll extend on behalf of council our get well soon wishes to Anne-Marie Townsend, who suffered a minor injury and is resting comfortably at home. There are better ways of missing a council meeting, I suppose, than to suffer an injury, but we wish her well in her recovery. And is there any other business before us this evening? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
By Councilman Hare, seconded by Councilman Neal. All in favor? Aye. Stand adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.